Welcome to the fifth episode of the Nurse Patient Forum podcast. Welcome back. So, today we're going to be kind of diving back into the murky waters of social media, exploring how platforms can amplify mental health struggles while simultaneously fostering dangerous parasocial relationships. So we'll be looking at how influencers, often grappling with their own mental health challenges, cultivate massive followings, and they capitalize on vulnerability, particularly within the chronically ill community, because that is a community that very much, a lot of them are unable to go out and socialize in a normal manner, as a lot of people do. So they have to kind of resort to what can come to them. And a lot of times that is social media. Social media can be very misleading. So I think it's unfortunate that a lot of people have fallen victim to that because they think it's a good thing for them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, first of all, I want to say I can't believe it's episode 5. Can you?
Crazy, went fast.
It's going so fast, but
Yeah.
I think it's important to be very, very clear that Google is not going to tell you what a parasocial relationship is. It's going to tell you exactly what you want it to tell you based on your search criteria. So
Yeah.
it's very important to look it up and look for peer-reviewed articles
Yeah.
on the subject because we're dealing with things that are changing with the times.
Yeah.
Okay. And at this point with social media, anybody can be public, anybody can have a large following. And it doesn't mean that you might not know each other or whatever. Maybe certain people do. But we are talking specifically about the parasocial relationships. We're talking about the dangers of social media.
Yes.
And we are worried about these vulnerable populations
Yep.
that are getting involved and they're actually being harmed a lot more than they're being helped, you
That's
know?
totally true. Yep. And I think
Mhm.
that there's not a lot of eyes on that topic just because one, people can't imagine that people are that awful that they would take advantage of these type of communities. And it happens all across social media. I mean, the parasocial relationship influencer is a word that people slap on themselves. You get 500 followers, you're an influencer now, like the criteria is in the dumps, very low. So
Mhm.
essentially anybody can put themselves in that position depending on how good of quality their content is and how their ability is to kind of rake in an audience. That can go far, and that can go far in a bad way, especially when it comes to people who are representing themselves as the person that's going to make all these changes in government, for example, with the chronic pain community and the opioid thing. Basically, you have creators that will their whole platform is about this, and I think what they need to understand is no one person is going to be able to make that change, even with the biggest voice in the world, especially with no
Mhm.
medical background or the connection to do so. It's a systemic problem. It's a systemic issue, and it has to take change has to take place on many levels in order for there to be any movement in the direction that they're looking for. So I just think it's a lot of like false hope, bad like misrepresentation. It's like to put yourself in a position where you're gonna promise somebody something, or essentially it seems like they're going to be getting something in return, which that's why it's very much a one-sided relationship, because they're not getting anything out of it. It's only going to drain them mentally, and it's going to ultimately affect their physical health. If there's somebody that's dealing with disability already, mental health very much plays a role into your physical health. And I think people underestimate how powerful your mind is and how easily you can be influenced.
Oh, yeah, and especially with pain management because there are so many other alternatives to, say, opioid medications. There is acupuncture, there is mindfulness, there are so many other
Well,
options,
and a lot of people
but
just laugh at it too. They won't give it the time of day.
correct. And also, I mean, those creators you're talking about, I mean, just an example, I was on Facebook earlier
Hmm.
and I was telling my story about something that was going on with pain, and I was told to reach out to the Doctor Patient Forum. Now, this is very important point.
I
We
see that
are
a
the
lot.
Nurse Patient Forum for a reason,
Yeah.
okay? We are against the Doctor Patient Forum because and everything it stands for because I personally have done work for the Doctor Patient Forum
And been
and I have
screwed.
been ghosted
Hmm.
by the creator of that patient forum.
Yeah.
Okay? So not only have I done work, have I tried to reach out, have I tried to get treatment and help from that particular group,
And you
I've
got
received zero.
Actually, less than zero, because they took from you by having you go out and organize a rally, be there when nobody was coming, never apologized to you, never responded to your messages after you said, hey, whatever you said, it doesn't matter. It wasn't met with anything. And I feel like that's such a slap in the face,
It
honestly.
is. It felt like that to
Yeah,
me.
and I have my own experience with that person and the doctor patient forum. And basically there was a video that I made that I was talking about patients coming and demanding certain things, which that very much happens. And for anybody to say it doesn't, I mean, you're just not being realistic. So essentially, Claudia, the founder, whatever, the doctor patient forum, she put a video of me, like a freeze frame, of me like half, like with the eye open, looking like an idiot. Like you couldn't even pick a good frame intentionally, right?
Hmm.
So she's saying that I was further encouraging stigma or something regarding pain medicine. It's like, no, if somebody comes into my ER demanding something that is unsafe for them, I'm going to be the nurse and put a boundary in between them and being unalived. That's my job. And if they don't feel that that's okay with them, they're more than welcome to get another nurse. But I have certain things that I have to do to keep my patients safe. And if somebody comes in, yes, demanding an 8 milligram IV bolus dose of Dilaudid, I'm going to have something to say about that. We're going to have some conversations. The doctor, you, and I will all be on the same page. There will be no confusion as to what is going on in that circumstance, because that's not a very standard, normal dose of those type of narcotics. And you're going to be on a monitor. We're going to get Narcan on board, because there's a good chance of going into respiratory depression and all those other things that happen when you have a lot of medication, opiates in your system. But to just flat out say, I want this, I don't want Narcan. And to preface, this is a video that was going around on the internet, a person that doesn't even live in this country, mind you, but they were going and asking for a certain medication but did not receive it because they didn't present them with the treatment plan. So she tried to come back after and tell me, yes, I have a treatment plan. Yes, I have a treatment plan. Well, why did you never receive that extremely high dose of medication then? Because she came back and posted the whole thing. I got 2 instead of 8 and da da da. And don't put your stuff out there if you don't want actual medical professionals to have input on it. And that's another aspect of social media, is I feel like people want to put stuff out there to get, I guess it gives them some kind of feeling when people react to their content. That's something that I have, a little down ways I wanted to talk about a little more. But social media very much has a similar effect on the brain to illicit substances, to drugs, to opiates.
The
The dopamine,
dopamine and
yeah,
serotonin,
that
correct.
dopamine hit, that serotonin,
Hmm.
you're getting that when you're getting those likes, those shares and comments. All that stuff is giving you a feeling that you're looking for. So it doesn't shock me that the community that is very heavily involved with, opiates and stuff like that is also very heavily involved with the stuff that goes on social media, with finding out where people work and where they live and all that real life stuff. It seems like somebody that, they're getting some type of positive feedback in their reality, not in real life, but positive feedback from those actions. And it's like the further they take it, the more it's like they're searching for that high. They have to go further and further and further. Just interacting or leaving a snarky comment is not enough anymore. They have to
Yeah.
go and call that person's employer and really get that real big hit.
And it's a mental health issue. I mean, in terms of
Yeah.
speaking of dopamine, and speaking of getting a hit of dopamine, you are literally getting that, and it's giving
Yeah.
you a rush of some kind. And just to go back to what you were saying for a moment about the 8 milligram dose, I personally had been overdosed by the hospital
And that
with
happens
only
too.
6 milligrams.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what it is to take that amount of medication,
And not to
and
say
I
that
did not
nobody can.
demand it, you
Right.
know. I was given it, and thank God for the nurse who checked on me. You know what I
And there
mean?
are definitely situations where you will get that dose of medication, but usually it's going to be given in small increments. We're not going to slam it all at once. And like I said, you're going to be on the monitor, all that kind of stuff. But to come in and just straight up like say, this is what I want, you're going to be met with some questions, right? Like for
Right.
you, you had significant pain that wasn't being relieved. The doctor overprescribed, and that's where you ended up in a problem. I mean,
Right.
these people are almost asking for the issue by coming in and saying, I want this and only this. And if I get to a point where I need Narcan, don't give it to me. No, like that's crazy. They would rather us run a code. Like I'm confused about that. Like I just don't understand why that's something you would be so against, other than, you don't want to have that effect reverse.
And this is the United States of America. This is not a third world country where we just hand out medications because you desire them.
Well,
You know
and
what I
that's the
mean?
thing too. I think people like come in and they really stand on that. Well, pain is subjective. You can't tell me about my pain. Well, that system has been abused over the years tremendously.
Tremendously, yes.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
we were having a conversation about this. Oh, I was in a education for work, and basically the conversation was the patients telling you they have 8 out of 10 pain. They're like doing, oh, they're walking around, they're doing all these things, right? How do you approach the situation? So I thought the answer was, well, they said they're an 8, they're an 8. No, now what they're doing is they want the nurse to explain what the pain levels mean and be like, well, if you're at this level of pain, you shouldn't be able to cough and deep breathe easily without pain. You shouldn't be able to, like, there's a criteria. So I feel like it's getting to a point where we're not just accepting 10 out of 10 anymore, where I'm eating potato
Right.
chips and I'm, oh, I'm used to this level of pain. Okay, well then, you're not going to be getting a super high level of medication if this is something that's normal to you. You know what I'm saying? The
Exactly.
ER is not the one to help with that. Just like there was another person involved in this situation that they think it's appropriate to go to the ER for your psych meds. It's like, no, you need to have a psychiatrist. And like if you have a true emergency and you really can't get your refill, that's fine. But
Hmm.
when you come back every month, you know what I'm saying? You're not
There's
following
something wrong with
psychiatrist.
that.
Yeah, there's something
Right.
wrong, and that puts up red flags for us. And that's normal. Like for someone to say, "Oh, you're biased, you're judging me." No, you're doing something wrong with your health care. You shouldn't be coming to the ER every 30 to 60 days saying you need a refill on your Prozac. You need to see
Right.
a psychiatrist.
And let's be honest also, this is not 2011 anymore. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? There is a lot of research that's gone down over the
Yeah.
past 24 years, and there's a lot of more restrictions than there were, and
Yeah.
they're there for a reason to be safe,
Well, and that's
not
it.
to
People
harm
people ha-
anybody.
people have abused the system for so long, saying, "Well, I have the
Mhm.
most amount of pain. Well, I have the most amount of issues, so I need the most amount of medicine." Well, unfortunately, that has not ended well for a lot of people. They've ended up with long-term issues because they had the highest dose or the most amount, and they were given what they wanted. So these regulations were put in place in regards to a lot of meds. When I was working in the nursing home with the psych meds, giving them to the elderly people, there are so many strict guidelines. You have to do so much documentation before you can even give a Xanax, a Klonopin, any type of psychiatric medication. You have to be documenting inside and out everything you did. You gave them a baby doll, you took them for a walk, you changed their whole, you did everything. Okay, now you can give the medicine. They are so strict about these things because there's records of things going wrong more than they're going good. You know what I'm saying? This isn't for, like you said, just
Right.
because they don't like you.
Hmm. And you're not going to put your license up for anybody. I
And
mean,
that's
no
the
matter
bottom
what,
line.
you
I'm the
know.
person in between them and what could possibly be an adverse effect. Like I'm going to be responsible and give that dose in small increments. It's going to be based on what the pharmacy is telling me anyway, which is usually give 2 every 2 minutes or whatever the case is. Everybody's going to be different depending on many factors, your
Hmm.
body weight, your current regimen, what you've been on, all that stuff. That's not news. But I feel like it all kind of comes full circle because it's like we're all dealing with people looking for that serotonin and dopamine, whether they have chronic illness or pain or not. You can still be dependent on medications and look forward to your medication, even though it has a purpose for you and it works well for you.
Hmm.
There's still a very negative side to all that.
Yes, absolutely.
And social media is the same way, where it's like you're getting that thing you're looking for, because a lot of this comes back to people who don't have real life interactions with people. They may be very lonely, they may be
Hmm.
isolated, and they really are desiring that connection for belonging and whatever it is, um that they're not getting elsewhere, so they kind of go to almost extreme lengths to get it
Well,
online.
there are a lot of people just coming from that community myself that are isolated,
Yes.
but I think we've all been isolated since COVID started. I
Well,
think
that's when a lot
everybody
of this
kind of
took
went
place.
inside and became social media people. They just
Mhm.
kind of stopped being people in reality and started being people on social media because they were all stuck inside with masks on all the time,
Yeah, and
you know?
I'm guessing people in the chronic pain and illness communities, they are more bound to their home than regular people, especially during COVID times, because they couldn't risk going out because, immunocompromised issues, all that kind of stuff. So they probably experienced that at a deeper level than most people before and after COVID. For a lot of us, we were just able to go back to our normal lives. A lot of these people, unfortunately, they don't have that normal go to work every day, 9 to 5, pick up their kids at
Mhm.
school. Like, they are just home, and they don't
Yeah.
have those things to, like, you look forward to your normal routine after being away from it for so long.
I mean, I've spoken to some people that, have been nice people that have told me specifically that it's better to have a negative relationship than to have nothing at all.
Yeah,
So I find that to
that's
be
scary.
sad and scary,
That's scary.
Yeah.
And I feel like somebody like that, it just goes to show how much they are longing for that connection, but it shows the lengths they're willing to go to. And I mean, that's without a doubt a mental health issue. You are so, missing that interaction that you're willing to take whatever you can get. And that really explains a lot of these type of people we've run into with these
Oh,
very
yes.
negative attitudes, the back and forth, the calling of wellness checks on people because they don't agree with them. Like, that's a huge waste of resources, first of all, for the police stations that you're contacting. But to
Mhm.
call a wellness check on somebody because you're mad, I mean, that doesn't seem appropriate to me.
And also to accuse other people of doing the same thing. I
Yes.
mean, I take my oath very seriously. Unless I see someone who's gonna harm someone else or themselves, or I see child abuse, I'm not going to misuse that, oath. You know what
Right.
I'm
And
saying?
even with the stuff we're seeing online, a lot of it is like, is that real? I don't know. Like with the nurse Hannah thing, everybody and their mother called CPS on her because she said she didn't buy the kid the coat. Meanwhile, the kid has 10 coats at home. She's a rage baiter. She knows what she's doing. CPS is
Mhm.
coming on and nothing has happened. And now that she's gone with the wind, they're on to the next person. Like, all
Yeah.
this outrage. That woman made so much money. She made probably over a $500,000 after all that was said and done
And just
because of,
for those who don't know who Nurse Hannah is, she's a very large creator on TikTok who is rage baiting, like Valson is saying. And she's an LPN, or I
Mhm.
believe she's an LPN.
Yes.
And she has been making a lot of money with, whatever rage bait she's putting
Well,
out. I haven't
manipulating
personally seen it myself,
manipulating
but
people, the
yeah,
emotions of people. So
correct.
what rage bait is? You're manipulating the emotions of the user. So essentially with her, the first video was the kid was flinching when the father went to or the whatever, she was handing him something, and he was flinching. That was the first thing. The second thing was she said she wasn't buying the kid a coat for winter. Like things like that are going to cause people to react in an emotional way where they're actually reaching out to agencies. They're calling CPS, they're calling the board of nursing, which the board of nursing doesn't care about that. I just have to let everybody know they understand that this is not reality. Her
Right.
her patients have nothing to do with her social media, and it's time and time again people will try to take their concerns about nurses on social media to the board of nursing, to their real life job, and it's like it gets to a point where, and they know what they're doing. They will harass those places so much to the point where they have to make some kind of resolution out of it. So, I mean, that's again those people searching for that serotonin boost, like, oh, look, I got this person fired. Oh, look, I got their nursing license removed. I just need to say to everybody on social media that has ever called an agency about a nurse they saw on TikTok, you will never, ever get a nurse's license removed because you don't like their TikTok. I just need that to be clear as day. That's
Yeah.
considered a personality conflict. It says
Hmm.
right on the front page of the Board of Nursing when you go to make a report, we do not accept complaints based on a personality conflict. Nobody was harmed. I mean, be something unethical. It seems like that varies from person to person based on what their ethics are. So
Yeah. And there's
ultimately,
also a lot of people that don't understand the word ethics
they
and
don't.
don't
And when you've
understand
gone
what we
through the
deal with.
nursing program, you are a little more familiar than somebody who, say, is a felon with a cleaning business that has no reviews.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
But
that's the reality of it. That's the type of people that tried to call my job a felon,
mhm. Yep.
a nurse that had her license removed for being a danger to her patients by diverting,
Mhm.
another woman who has a DUI and crashed into somebody's car in a ditch or something. These are the people who are doing these things. They're not good people that are so concerned. They're bad people that have bad intentions, and they get a rush out of doing this because they don't have these nice things in their life. They never
No.
worked hard to become a nurse or a doctor or a social worker. They couldn't, because a lot of them are felons, and there's a reason they never went past a certain point in their life, and they're stuck on social media because they're being given that, we were talking about last week, that positive feedback where it's feeding into their delusions, their reality that they've created. It's not real.
No. It's
Yeah,
not.
but that being said, I would like to show some of the videos from Connor that he posted yesterday, taking his delusions to the next level. So it seems that somebody must have called a wellness check on him, because he was live and saying weird stuff. And for once, I was actually asleep at 3:30 in the morning, so I have nothing to do with that. But it's just interesting how paranoid he seems. So let's see.
Let's head to the
Okay.
video.
Allison's trying the wellness check thing. It didn't work so well, though, because I did try to tell you that I don't live at those addresses.
So just to pause for a minute, I know that he doesn't live at Potter Road. I had to obtain his information because I have to eventually serve him legal documents. So, I mean, I'm very aware that this is not his address. So if I were to call a wellness check, it would be on the correct location. But this is a previous address of his, and it just seems interesting. He didn't say anything about, oh, you know, sorry to this person that got a knock on their door at 3:30 in the morning, just, you know, sitting here furthering his agenda with, oh, she's after me. It's like, I would have never known who this person was had he not tried to stick up for these criminals.
But she was dumb enough to think, oh, no, I lie all the time. My name's Allison, and I lie all the time, so I assume everybody else is lying. Let me tell you something, a little truth for you. I know you've never understood the truth in any shape.
It's like, I literally never lied.
You will never figure out where I live, ever. If you do, you'll wake up in a warehouse the next day. Isn't that
Now
nice?
stop for that for a second, because that right there is just a bold-faced threat.
Yes.
Right
so
there.
all I have to do is take that to my courthouse. They were very easy to work with me with the other one, because I came transcribed, all the videos were written out, and they were like, well, obviously this is directed towards you and your livelihood, and in this case he's threatening to unalive me. Like, you're not allowed to do that on the internet. So yeah, they easily granted the other one because it was just plain as day, and this one's even more plain as day. It's like, you mentioned my name, you mentioned a direct threat, you mentioned multiple things about me. It's like,
I'm pretty sure he mentioned my name in this one too.
he does
but
at
I'm
some
not sure.
point, yeah. But it's just like, I don't know why people think they can like get away with this kind of stuff. It's like, you're a stranger to me. You can't be saying that. Also, he was saying, oh yeah, he kind of backed off on the FBI stuff. Have you noticed he hasn't been saying that?
Yeah, I noticed that, because that's
he
totally
knows
illegal. Yeah.
he's using the FBI's name to say he's using their resources to stalk women. That's not going to look good. I mean, they already know about it, so there's a reason he hasn't been saying that, because he knows he's not associated with them, and to say that you are is actually a crime.
He does look a little shook, and I really can't stand the
Well,
list.
he
It's
does, and wait
bothering me.
till it gets a little deeper into the video, because he's clearly bothered.
Love, you try, you dox, you try to fucking do wellness checks, and that worked on everybody else, didn't it? Right?
I never
Because
called
you
a
can
wellness
zero
check.
in on it.
Everybody else.
You can't zero in.
I've never called a wellness check on anybody. That's how you know this guy is just being told stuff and he's just believing whatever.
Me. And we've been watching you for a while.
Who?
Sorry. What you're doing is playing exactly into my hand. And I can say that because you're going to continue to do that. Most people that are smart, I can be like, hey, man, you're playing into my hand. Or, hey, girl, you're playing into my hand. And they'll be like, okay, I'm going to stop doing that. But you're so narcissistic and dumb that I can say, you're playing into my hand.
He doesn't even know that narcissism and dumb don't go together.
The case file just gets bigger and better. It's fantastic, Allison. You are the best. I wanted to have a god tier fucking example, and you did it. Look at it. You don't got
Look
me.
at what? That's a message of somebody saying they had a wellness check called at their house.
Keep it up. Please add to your case file more. Like I said, none of the addresses you can find online are my actual addresses.
He starts to like skip words and stuff when he gets like agitated. You could tell, like, remember when he said, you're prison for life or something? Like, he was just like saying things without the full sentence.
Yeah,
like,
he has nothing
spitting out of his brain, and it's just not a formed sentence. It's very strange. But let's see.
I wonder who really did call, though. I'm honestly
I mean, his
curious.
live streams are crazy. He's probably saying all kinds of weird stuff. Anybody could have called. And that I know it could have been anybody because that's the address that comes up when you look up whitepages.com. That's the old address. That's what comes up. So somebody probably just searched him up, figured that out, and then they called it there. But that's not where he lives.
Right. And he's just working on basically threatening you,
Like,
and he just doesn't even make any sense. He hasn't looked up any of these laws. I mean, he thinks he's untouchable by the law. Nobody's untouchable by the
no.
law.
I don't know if we
Doesn't
did this.
matter.
Allison's trying really hard. She's making YouTube videos about me. Would you believe that? She tried
You're in
doxing me,
another
it
one.
didn't work, and she's resorting to soft clutch little.
Can I just say too? I don't think he has more than 2 shirts. I've only seen him wear this one and the blue one. Have you seen him wear anything else?
No, I haven't actually. I think
And
a
they're
robe.
both
That's
Hurley
it.
shirts. They're like the
And one's a
cheapest.
robe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the same robe. Yeah.
Fucking
Uh,
algorithms here. Hey, hon,
algorithm.
baby, you haven't been sleeping for a while. Look at your fucking face. There's only 2 instances. One, you're
looks
doing
great.
heavy fucking drugs, or 2, you're
The nails, the fingers, like so, it really puts me
not
off.
sleeping because Alpha Dom is breathing down your neck, quite frankly. Is it rough? Is it scary? Yeah.
No.
You fucking tortured a bunch of people.
Why
including
does he
kids,
say
and then
that?
dox people.
Who was tortured in my name? I have to understand because I've asked him. I said, I'll apologize to whoever was tortured by me. Please tell me who they are. Oh no, you should know who they are. Well, I don't. So
I don't either.
Like my content isn't about that. If you say something to somebody or you call somebody's job and you get a response that you don't like, unfortunately that's something you signed up for. I mean, you can't say, oh, I'm being attacked now, please stop. It's like, well, don't call my job. Don't. I mean, clearly the main person that was doing it has gotten themselves in a whole bunch of legal trouble. So I mean, you can be right added to the top of it, Connor. I mean, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I feel like they kind of called on him to create a distraction. Like, oh, if I'm dealing with him, I can't be dealing with them. No, I just add you to the pile. It makes no difference.
Mm-hmm. And he's just like a perfect example of these people.
Yeah, and I would like to make an example of this because, like, this is what's happening on the internet now. People think they can say and do whatever they want. Like, no, you can't go around and say, I'm working with the FBI to stalk you. Like, no, you're going to be in trouble for that. Like, you're not allowed to say that on multiple videos on a platform that can reach anybody. Like, no.
No.
But back to, like, the mental health aspect, like, there's a reason a lot of these people are isolated, and for the disabled community, that's a unique situation. Those people physically cannot get out a lot of the time. But for somebody like Connor, they have difficulty forming genuine relationships. He may have some type of personality disorder going on.
Yeah,
Obviously,
that's called borderline.
Obviously, as a nurse, I cannot diagnose anybody, but I know how to identify these traits, and I'm definitely going to call out what I'm seeing. So, I mean, there's clearly something going on, and being on a platform like that is only feeding into those delusions further, exacerbating it, making it worse.
Well, even as an MSW, I am allowed to diagnose, but I wouldn't be able to diagnose him just off his videos.
And
But
that too.
if I had to just come up with a short list of things that it could be, I would say possibly borderline personality disorder. Because
I mean,
it
fits.
includes chaotic relationships and inability to take criticism and things like that. So
yeah.
So that's where I would probably wind up checking out.
And I think in a situation like Connor, like, he kind of caters to another vulnerable audience, like men who are maybe insecure about women and people that, again, are in a vulnerable position. He probably, like, he clearly was that guy or is that guy. So I feel like he kind of almost preys on his own type in a way because he knows what he can get away with. So I just feel like that's a whole, like, there's so many different groups across social media, and I feel like, he's kind of influencing one or two of them, which would be the chronically ill and pain community, which I'm just trying to figure out why they even have a connection with this person.
Yeah,
like,
that I don't understand.
Why would you put him on a pedestal? Like, yeah, go get that person for us. Like,
yeah, let's go get the guy who doesn't like consent and get him to take care of us women.
I can't figure out, like, the logic behind that. Like, what exactly are they getting out of being represented by this person, and he can't even state the facts of the issue he has. He can't tell me what children I doxed. He keeps saying that, and it's like it's
Yeah.
almost like he emphasizes it in a way like, oh, everybody should hate this person, you know, look what she did. It's like, but you have no proof of that. Like, you
Yeah,
can't just
there
go
is
and
none.
name yeah.
I mean, you haven't doxed anybody or anyone or any children. I mean, nothing like
Where?
that. And
I think they think it's considered doxing when you like speak about them or mention their first and last name. I mean, as long as it's public information and I'm not using it in a malicious manner, like to send a wellness check to your house or something like that, which honestly, that might have been warranted. There's a reason that person felt the need to send that wellness check clearly, but that has
right.
nothing to do with me. I just could probably see why that would happen. And I don't think it's been the first time he's probably dealt with something like that,
Hmm.
because I mean, the way he acts on social media is very concerning. It's very paranoid. He's delusional. You know, he kind of just creates his own reality around this whole dating 7 girlfriends
Yeah.
thing.
And he doesn't even understand that narcissism and being dumb don't go together. When you're a narcissist, you're extremely intelligent.
That's true too.
So, that's another thing to go
Uh,
with.
So
But
another point that I mentioned here, kind of going back into the chronically ill and pain communities, is we have this new rise of like health influencers or patient advocates, people that have absolutely no medical background. They've only been a patient or experienced things in the medical field on the other side, not as the employee, not as a person, not as a provider. And now they're out here, you know, with these large platforms, giving people medical advice, telling them how they should go about their pain management. For example, I saw a video of a woman who she was talking about how she was going to have Claudia come in on like a Zoom to her pain management, and she posted this to social media. A couple days later, she posted that her pain management fired her. They got rid of her, and I think
of
probably
course.
because they thought Claudia was coming into their pain management facility, and they said, "Oh no, we're not having that. Goodbye. You can find something else." I don't think
Hmm.
people realize how those connections can be so damaging to them. I don't think she probably never even put it together because she thought that woman was a savior for her. But when people hear that name coming, especially pain management doctors, they don't want nothing to do with it.
Exactly. I mean, I personally have offered to be an advocate on like a FaceTime before, but most doctors won't allow that.
No, they won't, because
And
honestly, it's inappropriate. It's inappropriate.
it
It's
is, it is. I don't feel comfortable doing
Yeah,
it,
especially
but
like what is the relationship with the person? You know, it's like a
hmm
random person on social media. Like it's just not professional. It's not
no.
meant to share your information with people on the internet in that capacity.
Yeah, and you got to be careful with your sensitive medical information and
Yeah.
your HIPAA as well. I mean, I had someone actually tell me they were going to go and put me on their HIPAA. They never met me.
Yeah.
That's a scary thing. I
And
mean,
that's
I'm
what goes
like,
that goes to show you how quickly people will just trust anybody. You know, they see this guy coming after me, the lady that attacked all these people, which who and then they go and, you know, side with him and encourage the behavior. So it's just like it's very dangerous because like people are coming across anybody on social media and trusting them just based off the content that they see that person put out. They think, oh yeah, I want to have this person speak for me in the doctor's office. It's like I think
mm,
there needs to be a better system overall for patient advocacy. Like, of course, there's an issue with everybody getting access to the patient advocacy, you know, resources that they need. So maybe we can do something where they're more accessible and they're actual patient advocates that can help people and not just like sit in on a conversation in the doctor's office. Like I would just be curious, like what would she be doing? Like, are you going to tell the doctor what to do? Like, because the doctor
mhm,
kind of is setting what they're going to do regardless. There's only so many like ways you could change their mind, so to say. Like you can always as the patient tell them, okay, this is my situation, this is what I need as a solution. I have pain, I need it to go away. The doctor is
mhm.
going to approach that in a very specific way. And I don't think having a lady off TikTok on your Zoom call is going to be beneficial. I think it's going to make you
No.
look silly, if anything.
I agree. I mean, the one I was talking about recently was a friend of mine, actually, not
That
somebody
makes more sense. At
off
least they know
social
you.
media. Yeah, we know each other, off of social media. So I offered to be somebody who would explain to the doctor what they were not
See,
understanding
and
and
I think
maybe
I
what
think that makes more
person.
sense too because you're essentially just being a more educated voice for them. That's really what a patient advocate is. You know, speaking like the patients don't always have an easy way to communicate their needs. The patient
Correct.
advocate bridges that gap. The patient advocate isn't there to tell the doctor to do something else. Like
Exactly.
you're not going to tell the doctor anything at the end of the day. You might be able to give some suggestions and better speak for the patient, but what you're not going to do is tell the doctor anything, because that's just not how healthcare works. And I think that people don't understand. First of all, the doctors are held to a lot of standards depending on the policies and procedures of those facilities. They can only do certain things. And, a lot of things aren't even in their control. But at the end of the day, they're going to do what, one, they think is right based on their education and experience, and two, what's going to keep the patient the safest. And you have to consider the setting too. Are you in the emergency room? Is this your pain management doctor? Like a lot of people come to the ER for pain management, and it's because it's not being managed appropriately outside of the ER.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So.
And I think it's also very important to understand that when people are just going to call someone's job, for instance, they're not going to be calling your doctor to say anything educated or say anything to help you. Yelling at a doctor and telling them, give that person opioids, is not going
That's
to
what's
create
happening. That's
a
literally what's
situation
happening.
that's going to be working.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and that works opposite, obviously. You're not going to get anywhere like that. That's why, like, I'm so serious about this conversation, because the way social media is affecting my actual job in the ER at the bedside is unreal. People coming in and just telling you TikTok stuff right off the bat. Like, I saw this on TikTok. That's what I want. I was told this by somebody, and they try to pass it off like it's a friend or something. Meanwhile, you do a little digging, you find out it's just a random person on social media that told them. I don't know if I told you the story. Actually, I'm pretty sure I did. The guy that came in with green urine because he tried a TikTok trend.
No, I didn't hear that. You didn't tell me that
Yeah.
one.
So, I mean, I've seen a lot of weird stuff like that. He was making hyperbaric chambers at home. He was taking methylene blue that was causing his urine to be green. He came in like in a mostly unconscious state. Like it didn't make sense. He was just like, he was like stiff as a board. So don't do stuff that you see off the internet, because that's the reality of it. People don't see that. They see all the wonderful stories. Oh, this worked for me. This worked for me. This worked for me. People forget social media is fake half the time. Second of all, they probably want to sell you the product.
Right, and these are people that all have in their link tree, like Cash App, Venmo,
Oh, they
ways
just
to pay
sending
the
money.
money.
Yeah.
So, are they looking for money? Are they looking for the dopamine rush? Which
It's
one is it?
it's highly
Is it
monetary
all of it?
driven, I think, by
Yeah.
the people that are on the side of like the predator, where they're like influencing these communities, and then on the other side they're looking for that dopamine and serotonin hit with that, filling that loneliness void, or oh, this person's going to help me get the right care that I need because I've been struggling with that. And it's like, unfortunately, a lot of people do have difficulty navigating the medical system. So when they see somebody that sounds like they know what they're talking about, sounds like they could get them what they need, I don't think they understand that it usually backfires, because that's never going to look good going into your doctor's office and saying, well, this person said this. Like, who is that person? Oh, I saw them on social media. Okay, now I'm just going to discredit nearly everything else that comes out of your mouth because you came in here talking about TikTok first. It's like people are so detached from themselves and their own physical and mental health that they're so worried about what they're seeing on their phone.
And I just feel so bad for that person you were talking about, to be fired from your pain doctor when you're in real pain because you trusted the wrong person is just such a devastating blow,
Yeah, and
you
like I
know?
said, I don't think they put it together. I think because they basically said, we can't manage you, so we're like, it was a very vague ending. It wasn't like, oh, this person is the reason, but you could tell the timeline matched up very well. All of a sudden now you're gone. You can't go there anymore. Well, because you said you
Right.
bring this person into their practice, you might put them on social media and make them look like assholes. You might cause them serious harm, and
hmm
they rather sacrifice that one patient and say, oh, you're gone, just go somewhere
Yeah,
else,
and
we
we
don't really
we
care.
actually you stitched that video this week where the girl said if you can't find an IV, then you should find another job. I
Yep.
mean, and how that other nurse was very triggered by it. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just people think that they know so much from social media and they're
Yeah.
not getting the education. They're just getting TikTok
Well, and they think that
education.
it should just be, every nurse should come with a certain level of skills. Like, what I think people don't understand, and I meant to like do a couple video responses, because people were in the comments saying, oh, you seem triggered, she seems triggered. I mean, those are my skills that I work very hard for. And then because this person might be a hard stick, or because her nurse maybe was a new grad and was just getting used to doing IVs, now she needs a new job. It's like the entitlement has got to go away. You have to be more grateful for those that care for you, those that have the skill set to be able to place an IV for you. And just the situation overall didn't make sense, because standard policy in nearly every hospital I've worked in, if two nurses can't get the IV, and you can only try so many times, maybe three at most, but usually most they'll say, I can't get it, let somebody else try. If she can't get it, then you're doing ultrasound line, which there's no chance that they're not getting the ultrasound line. The chance is very slim. So for this person to sit here and act like people were just poking her left, right, and center with no plan in mind is also very disrespectful, because that's
Hmm.
not how we operate. We have a plan from the second we walk in that room. If I can't get this IV, I'm going to ask somebody else. If they can't get it, we're going to do an ultrasound line. That's it. So for you to sit there and complain like somebody's doing something to you maliciously is very odd to me.
I also think that it's very odd when people sit on social media while they're in the hospital bed
Yes.
and they just sit and they talk shit about their nurse.
Being in
Okay.
the hospital is never a good experience for anybody. And a lot of times what they teach you when you work in the ER is every day you're at work is the worst day of somebody's life. And that's
Right.
true most of the time. And,
Hmm.
we kind of live through that thought process. Like, everybody here needs a little extra because they're going through a really shitty time. So
Hmm.
it's just like unbelievable to me that there's people, and not to say there's not bad nurses either, but you're going to get the energy you put out. If you come in just like
Right.
filming the nurse or already like talking shit, like try your best just to be polite, because it's going to get you so much further in regards to not only the things you're supposed to be getting, but that nurse will bring you extra blankets. She will bring you all the extra good stuff, because you're making her job a little bit easier by cooperating, answering the questions you need her to answer. Like just be very straightforward rather than bring all this extra emotional baggage into it, which I know can be
Hmm.
hard, but it's only going to cause for a miscommunication, because you're letting the
Yeah.
emotion get in between.
And that's the problem, is social media creates this emotional baggage that
Exactly.
you bring with you to the hospital, and you sit there and you just think, well, so entitled to what
Yeah.
I need to be feeling that this person doesn't matter. Who cares about this person?
Well,
It's
it's
all
funny
about
you say
me
that too,
today,
because I
you know?
notice a lot of them will film other people in the hospital. Like, why are you doing that? Like, I
Hmm.
feel like that's not appropriate either. But they say, oh, well, we could film anything in public. Yeah, but maybe have respect for some people. Also, the thing about, well, I could film my nurse if I want. If you're not doing anything wrong, why can't I film you? Because I don't want you to. I
That's
mean,
not true, though. You're not allowed to do that,
you're not allowed to
especially
film
in
in
a
the hospital at
hospital.
all. There's signs
Yeah.
everywhere. You're not allowed to film. So if we ask you to stop filming or stop live streaming, you need to do that. If you don't want to, you can leave. That's fine. But the way I see it, if you're filming and live streaming, you're not in an emergency situation.
Right.
You're just not,
Mhm.
because your priority would be yourself and your health. If your body just functions like that. If you're in a life or death situation, you're not doing all that extra stuff.
Yeah, you're not live streaming, worrying about gifts, worrying about your community, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You
And
should be worrying about yourself.
that's when all that leaks into the hospital experience. And like I said, I literally see it at the bedside. They're getting advice from people on these live streams telling them sue the hospital because the nurse didn't bring them water or something. Like,
Hmm.
oh, I know a lawyer. It's what hospital is this? What nurse? Then all of a sudden, all this people's information, the nurse's first and last name, all this information is out there all of a sudden because this person is on live stream and somebody doesn't like the way things are going. So,
Yeah,
you know,
I actually got blocked by somebody because I said, "Are you filming a nurse?" without letting her know, and then all of a sudden I'm blocked by a mod or
yep,
something.
yep. And they'll
And
delete all
yeah.
the other comments. Yeah, you should sue her. Yeah, you should find out, who her boss is, or, stuff like that. And it's like it goes too far. And like I said earlier, I think people are getting this kind of reward from following through with these things. Like, oh, well, I was the one who found it out. I was the one who called. I was the one who did this. And it's
Hmm.
like people are really enjoying that process. I have
It's
comments.
almost like a contest of who
Well,
could
yeah,
get
I have
the
comments for
most
days
reports.
that
Yeah.
that show that, oh, who are we calling on today? We love a good complaint, all that kind of stuff. And it's like,
Hmm.
that's how you live your life. You're just waiting to complain about somebody. Like if I ever seen a Karen, I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, what is that?
That is just a mental health issue, is what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. But I think people
Um,
are just so detached from like mental health. First of all, it's invisible for the most part. You can't look at somebody and say, wow, they really have this or that. It's all about their behavior over a period of time. They were this way last year. Now they're this way. Wow, they've declined tremendously. All of a sudden, their personal hygiene isn't being taken care of. All of a sudden, they've lost a lot of weight, or, and they're constantly stuck in their phone. Their phone is a direct cause of not only that spiral, but if you're already chronically ill or you have chronic, issues, it's going to exacerbate them tremendously.
oh, sure. I mean, I'm a victim of it myself sometimes, I'll
Well,
be
even the
honest with
other
you.
day where we were having a conversation where somebody was being so just ridiculous towards you and keeping you in this like loop of conversation that you didn't get to take your medication that you needed.
Exactly. Hmm.
That's a direct effect right there.
Exactly. And it's very important for me to take my medication, you know?
Yeah, and back to like
So,
the health influencer thing too. Like these are people that typically they have chronic illnesses of their own. Most of them are not medical people because they understand that this is kind of a dangerous territory, to share your own experience and kind of tell others what they should do with that experience. Like if you're a medical professional, it's just black and white. It's what you've learned, it's your education. But
mhm.
to be going in a territory where you're sharing, you're creating an entire platform based off your personal experience in the medical system. I mean, that's not a one size fits all type of thing. Everybody's going to have
No,
a different experience, and I think you're creating sometimes unrealistic expectations. Sometimes you're creating fear within people to seek the medical
mhm.
help they need because they're seeing, people kind of dramatize the things they post on the internet, and not to say their experiences aren't bad, but it's like you definitely make it look worse when you edit it all together in a short clip where you're bleeding, you have 6 IVs, like you look like you're in really bad shape, though that might have only been 1 week out of your entire year. It's people are going to see that, and that instills fear within certain people who might need to seek medical care. The crazy experiences in the ER, that's not
Mhm.
helping people because now everybody sees it only as a bad place. And not that it
Yeah.
should be seen as a good place or somewhere we want you to come and visit, but at the same time, you should feel right, but you should feel
Mhm.
safe there at the very
Oh,
least.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
I think that a lot of that's being taken away by these videos where it's a video of a girl. I'll have to show it next time, but like it was her and her boyfriend, and she brought him to the ER. It looked like he had taken too much medication. He was very out of it. It seemed like he was having like seizures intermittently. Somehow he was refusing care. He didn't want to be taken care of, right? Okay, you don't want to be taken care of, then you have to leave. So they put him in a wheelchair and they wheeled him out. Like you had the right to refuse care pretty much at any point unless you're completely unconscious. So he was like coming out of it enough where he could refuse care. So he did. The girlfriend also was saying, yeah, he don't want to be here. He don't want to be here. Okay. So they take them out. She's filming the
Mhm.
whole time. And then he's like flopping around in the wheelchair, just being as dramatic as possible. And then she's saying they're kicking him out. They're kicking him out. And like it's like, what are we doing? Like, she's just filming this staff trying to villainize them when you and him both said he doesn't want to be here.
It's a lot like those police videos where they always lie, and you see them wind up getting arrested at the end. But yeah, they're always trying to say, "Oh no, he assaulted me," or he is trying to hurt me, or whatever. And it's all on body cam, so what does it matter?
Yeah.
You know?
And this video
So,
in particular got millions and millions of views. It just made no sense. And I was just like, it's not only are you spreading like misinformation, fear, like I said, people are seeing this and they might forego the care that they actually need because they think they might be turned away, or they think they might,
mhm,
you probably will have to wait a long time when you go to the ER. Unfortunately, people are coming to the ER for things that are not emergencies. And that
mhm,
stops the lineup for people that, have problems. But we also have a system where we triage people based on, how serious whatever it is that's going on with them. You're going to
mhm,
get a certain number. If you're like a 1, you're going right to the back. If you're a 2, you're probably going right to the back too. If you're a 3, a 4, or a 5, they're going to be a little slower to get to you. But
Hmm.
typically, I mean, you're triaged based on what's going on with you. So if you're sitting in the waiting room for a long time, it's likely that it's not something that's serious, because we're not going to let somebody sit in the waiting room if they're bleeding out, if they have
Right.
signs or symptoms of a stroke, if they have, maybe they're having seizures. Like that kind of stuff doesn't sit in the waiting room. So it just always boggles my mind when people like have a fit in the waiting room. It's like you should be glad that you're okay enough to wait.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, that's how
But
I
I'll be honest with you. I've had worries about going to the ER before.
sure
I felt like I probably won't get the care I need, so I'm just gonna stay home.
that happens a
But
lot.
that then again, I mean, my local hospital, it's very quick. I get in very quickly. But if I go to like one of the bigger hospitals, I've waited for like 16 hours.
Oh
I've
yeah, I've
I've
had
been one of
patients
those
for
people.
days.
Yeah, yeah, I've been in the ER for days before, so it happens. It depends on what
I mean,
your
I think people
level
don't
is.
understand the other side of it, where it's like we have all these patients, like we have to take
Mhm.
care of everybody. There's no
Yeah.
person we could just put in the corner, and ultimately everybody needs to be, have a nurse one-on-one, have a doctor one-on-one, have their scans, have their labs. And I feel like people just underestimate, like we're not robots. And I feel like people think we could just do, like we're constantly moving. I never sit when I'm in the ER for 13 hours, never, just
Hmm.
keep going the entire time. And I think people just like, we make it look so easy, like the same thing with the IVs. Most of the time, 1 2 3, we're done. We get it done quickly and it looks easy. But once somebody has trouble, now they need to be removed from the profession. Now they're the worst nurse. Now,
Hmm.
and it's like, if we don't clear out that waiting room quickly, now we're inadequate, we're not good enough. And it's like, it's just impossible. And we a lot of ERs have now adapted to where you have like a fourth pod that's like an urgent care. So for like people who come in with a cough or a stubbed toe, like they go through there, so that the actual emergency room is set aside for those who need it, because that stuff clogs it up real good.
Yeah, I'm sure.
People who they
Yeah.
come in and they get Motrin and they go home. It's like, had they just taken the Motrin I can't tell you, it's such a problem. And a lot of times it's like parents with like younger kids or something, which I get it, like maybe they don't
Mhm.
understand how to take care of the kid appropriately yet when they're sick. But we try to provide that education so that they don't come back again when they have, a low grade fever. Like, give the kid Tylenol. If that still doesn't work, alternate Tylenol, Motrin. If those things don't work, then come to the ER. So we try
Right.
to send people off with a good understanding of why they should come back if they need to. Don't come
Hmm.
here for this, don't come here for that. If you have these kind of issues, all right, that's fine. But like a lot of these things, you can go to a regular urgent care, you can go to your primary doctor, you can wait till tomorrow till your doctor's office opens. And if people would adhere more to that, I think that we would have less issues with like the wait times and stuff. But
Hmm.
it kind of all comes full circle again to like social media has a really heavy influence on what people expect when they go into a hospital.
Oh yeah, and it also is putting a shortage out there because they're calling people's jobs.
Yeah. Well,
You
there's
know.
that, and then you have like, again, referring to the one about, well, if you can't get the IV, you should leave the profession. People are kind of fed up with that attitude. They don't really want to be in a profession where they're dedicating so much of their time and their life to help people and save people. The skills we have learned, doing ACLS every 2 years, doing all these other continuing educations, like all this stuff that we do on our own time to take care of
Hmm.
these patients. And then you have one bad day where you can't get the IV, and that's the kind of attitude. Someone's blasting you on
Right.
social media, all your
Hmm.
nursing skills and your 10, 15, 20 years of hard work. That's not gonna, people aren't gonna go into a profession like that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, even the social work field is very low now
Oh,
because
yeah, same
there's
deal.
30, you need 36 credits of continuing education every 3 years.
Wow.
So it's a lot of money for that. It's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And, to be a therapist and remain a therapist, you have to continue to register your license every 3 years,
Yeah.
take continuing education every 3 years because there's so much mental health. They keep adding on and
I would say
adding
it's
on
always
more
changing.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always changing.
Yeah. And
But
same thing with nursing. We have to do the continuing education every day. We're learning something new every day.
mhm, yeah. But I just wanted to talk about we really need to be very knowledgeable about setting boundaries. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Proper boundaries, limiting screen time is one way to do that. Making sure you block the people that present negative emotions, in your own self, because you don't need that kind of thing in your life. And if you prioritize like real life activities, you could do many things. You could volunteer. There's plenty of depending on your religion, there are churches out there for you that can provide you with community. There are mental health groups that you could join into that could help you with more real life community. You know what I mean? Like rather than getting stuck in these parasocial online relationships with these influencers, there are ways to have real life connections without even leaving your own home. There's plenty of ways to do this,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be on social media,
Yeah, I feel
you
like a
know?
lot of people like they know those resources exist, but to them it's just easier to pick up the phone and even though they know these people are bad for them and negative, I feel like they still are gravitated towards that for some reason. It's just like an easy it's the same thing like when you're using substances. You're looking for
Mhm.
that first high you got the first time where you had a good connection with somebody. They're never going to have that again. And
No.
a lot of these people will love bomb the crap out of you too. So initially they're super nice to you. They make you think they're going to help you. And then when it comes down to you actually like needing something or somebody, they might just turn on you and show all your messages to the world or something. Like that's the scenarios we've dealt with a lot. And also when it comes to like just blocking them, it's like I wish it was that easy too, because you block them and then they come back on fake profiles and harass you. It's like once you block somebody, they know that they're like a problem for you and they just
Mhm.
keep going. So that's their serotonin and dopamine boost. You have both sides of it. People who are straight up doing evil, bad things and torturing people and getting a reward from it. And then you have the other people who are just desperately looking for a connection and they're just hanging on to anything. They'll take even the negative stuff, they'll take the bad stuff.
Exactly. It's just
It's
like the
really a
people I
shame.
was talking to, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And in terms of, there's different social media platforms also. The ones have been around a lot longer than, say, TikTok. They have much more privacy settings that you
Yeah.
can set up. And you could block not only this account, but you can block any further account that person ever makes.
Hmm.
So
Oh, that's
that's
good to
one thing
know.
that's
Where
great
can you do
about
that? Where can you do that?
Facebook, you could
Oh,
do that.
okay.
And you can't do that on TikTok. You just
No.
have to block every profile that comes after you,
Hmm.
and it becomes a daily problem
Well, we've
for
seen
some
hundreds.
people.
We've seen one person in particular, they have made hundreds of fake accounts to just harass people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So unfortunately, it's always going to be a problem that's there. I think it's just important for us to have these discussions so people, one, know it's a problem, know what they're dealing with, and two, they know there's people out there who will support them in a positive way and help them get out of these situations if they need. There's people who are stuck in these like one-sided relationships and they're being like manipulated to stay in these relationships. For example, the C person we always talk about, she had a friend that would go and get people's personal information. She would go stand up in the comment sections for her and people would say what's right and she would kind of attack them for that person, the creator. And it's like you're
Mm.
creating these little like pit bulls or these little, or they call them flying monkeys, people who will go out and do your dirty work essentially. And it's like it's just a really dangerous dynamic and I don't think people understand how you can be involved in that. And like some people are afraid to speak up and leave. It's like an abusive relationship.
Yeah, and also TikTok is just too dangerous in my opinion. I really
Oh yeah,
think you're better off with a different platform if you
there's
can
a lot
be.
of bad stuff on there.
Yeah, and the AI reporting is just a joke. So,
It is a joke. They don't do anything in regards to people who are actually like causing a problem. It almost seems like they encourage it in a way because it creates engagement and drama, and it seems like the AI favors that. So it's really
yeah.
hard to understand what they want and don't want because everything's a problem.
And you can also say anything in a video, but when you say something in a comment, it immediately gets removed.
The
Do you know what
comments
I
are
mean?
even worse, I think, because I've said things like, "Oh, that's gross," or "Oh, the other day I wrote ew," like with three W's, and
Yeah,
it
I did that
it gave me
once.
like a strike or something. I was like, "What the heck?"
Yep, exactly.
I
But
don't
a
know.
video, it's so hard to get it taken down. I mean, they can take your content, they
Yeah.
can remove things from it, put what they want in it, put their own stuff on top of it, and that's okay. But when it comes to you saying, "Hey, don't do that to me," or "You're a B for doing that to me,"
Yeah.
or something, you are attacked by TikTok. So who is really the victim?
Exactly,
I'm
exactly.
confused,
Oh, and
honestly.
this is just reminding me of something. I don't know if you noticed, but the doctor-patient forum was in our comment sections a little bit.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so it's funny because they said something about, oh, Claudia's been trying to reach you, and you didn't answer something. I'm like, where? And they're like, in the comment section. I was like, where? Like, that's not how you reach out to somebody. That's not appropriate. I was like,
No.
first of all, my YouTube channel has an email attached to it specifically for
Mhm.
that channel. It's like there's 10,000 ways you could have reached me. That is just highly unprofessional, for one. And two,
Mhm.
I also had made a response to her video when she made that video saying I was stigmatizing healthcare or pain medicine or something strange like that. I made a response and I said, I'm so glad you responded to my video. I would love to, further this conversation. I mean, this was months ago
Yeah,
and
and we had absolutely no
there was
response.
no
So
response. It's like
to
now
be
that I'm,
honest, we
yeah,
have no interest in speaking to the doctor-patient
no, and
forum
now I said
about
no,
anything.
absolutely not. Exactly. So like it's like now that I'm having a platform where I can discuss you, now you want to speak to me on a Zoom call. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no,
I don't
we're
operate like
good.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Bev said
we're
the
good.
same thing to me. She wanted to speak to me on a Zoom call.
With
Yeah, how
somebody
about
else. So it's
no?
gonna be me and then her and somebody else. Like what, you could like try to gang up on me? No, I'm good.
Yeah, no thanks. We're good.
It's like we can agree to disagree. That's okay. This online stuff, they don't understand that. Like you can have an opposing a mindset to somebody else and that's okay. No, they have to attack. You can't accept criticism if you like what are you talking about? It's like I don't agree with you and that's okay.
Yeah, that's totally okay. And also, just to make the distinction, the doctor-patient forum is full of patients. The nurse-patient forum is full of educated professionals.
Nurses, patients, social workers, people with
Mhm.
medical backgrounds and experience as patients as well.
Correct.
Yeah. So
That's
I
what
think
was the difference between the two.
that there's a big difference and I think we bring a
Mhm.
lot more to the table too because like for example I have my own experiences with my epilepsy, other issues that have caused me to have to be in the hospital, be on medications, be on all these different things and not
Mhm.
be able to drive for a period of time, so I have an understanding of being the patient from that side and I also have the understanding of being the nurse. You understand both sides as well, because you've
Mhm.
been on both sides, especially now you're dealing with a lot of things in regards to your health and I think that it brings a lot more to the table than just somebody who doesn't agree with the government in regards to opiates.
Right, and also what do we call it? Lobbying? They're lobbying? What are they doing?
But nothing's ever been done. Yeah, nothing.
Have they passed one thing in Congress in the amount of time that they've
No,
been
no. They don't
an organization?
and
I'd
that's
like
the
to know.
thing. They don't have the ability to and these people really believe that these people are going to go out and fight for them. It's systemic. This has to take change on multiple levels. And
No.
I just don't see that happening. It hasn't happened, and I just think it's false hope. And then they get angry with you when you speak the truth, and then now you have trash organs. You're an addict. You're this. It's like all this
Mhm.
nasty stuff that gets
Yeah.
spewed in your direction when you just don't agree with somebody. It's
And
just
let's just set the record straight, okay? If we were to say the president is you and the vice president is me, we're talking about a RN and an MSW. When we're talking about the president and the vice president of the doctor patient forum, we're talking about a retired court reporter and a person who wants my degree, who doesn't have it.
yeah.
Okay?
And then I just want to really quick cover. Remember that statement if you go to the doctor patient forums like website, they have an about me about the president and the vice president, which is who Mike just mentioned. One is a court reporter who has no medical background. She's a patient strictly, and that's where her medical advocacy or information comes from. And then the other one who we said wants his degree, she has I guess a bachelor's in psychology, which is a very common degree. A lot of people get that when they're trying to go for other things.
It's like
It,
liberal arts,
yeah,
pretty
it's a good
much at this
foundation.
point. Hmm.
The other person, the C lady who harasses us on TikTok, has the same degree. Anyway, so she never furthered that education, hasn't worked bedside, doesn't have any patient interaction experience, right? So it's just it's in her bio, it basically said that she first became involved with like advocacy for opiates when she went to a hospital and they told her she couldn't have pain medicine for her kidney stone because she was SA'd as a child. I don't know where
Mhm.
she came to that conclusion to put that out there and say that to when you're the vice president of a apparently a platform that's supposed to, be speaking on behalf of pain patients, and that's just straight up misinformation. That
And
is
also,
terrible.
if you're straight up, remember episode 2 where where I was wearing scrubs, would that be appropriate? Because she does love to wear scrubs, and she doesn't correct
I
anybody
never
when they
understood that
ask
either.
her.
Like I called her doctor for the longest time and she
Me
never
too.
corrected me. And then like it just if somebody called me that one time, I'd be like, whoa, 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 that's I'm not a doctor.
That's not no,
she
exactly.
she
That's what I
had
would do.
people telling me she was a doctor, so obviously people in that community believe that just based on her having glasses and scrubs talking about medical things, and that
Yeah.
is so dangerous. And like that's a lot of what we talked about throughout the episode this week is that parasocial dynamic where you see these two people up here, they must have all the education and the knowledge, right? No, anybody can have
Hmm.
a podcast, literally anybody. Me and Mike
Hmm.
just started this on a whim, but we saw that there was a need because there's this other podcasts trying to give out information in regarding to patient advocacy or medications or whatever it may be, and it's just straight up bad information. And as a nurse and a social worker, we kind of feel it's our duty to be like, hey, that's not right, let's correct it. But like in no way is that being malicious, attacking somebody, mean. I mean, that these are just people who are very sensitive, I guess is the way you could put it, because people
Apparently, who don't do research.
exactly. People are going to
Hmm.
correct you in life. But that brings me back to my other thing that we mentioned in one of the other episodes is chronic opioid use affects your executive functions. It literally says in that article, and I'll put it in this one too, that it affects your ability to do appropriate research because
Hmm.
your functions are limited. So you think you're getting the best information. Well, typing it into Google, there's a lot more to it. You need to have peer reviewed, it has to be
Yes,
something
that's
legitimate,
very important.
Yeah. So
Very
I don't
important.
think people know how to research. And then when they, unfortunately, some things like medications and stuff do interfere with their ability to, carry out good research. It's just a shame that they don't recognize that.
Hmm. And also, I believe she commented and said, "Are you saying that it affects the brain? Is
She
that
did.
really what you're
She
saying?"
did. So you're
Yeah.
the vice president of this podcast, but you don't even know the long term effects of opiate use. Like you talk about this
Hmm.
every day in your podcast.
Yeah. So anyway, again, no disrespect. We're just talking the truth of the
I mean,
situation.
we have to come into a place in this world where it's okay if other people have opposing views to us. There's going to be
Hmm.
people who don't think the way I think. That's fine. It doesn't affect me at all. But
And
it
the
seems
same
like
thing with me.
when people get so like emotionally like charged about somebody not agreeing with them, it brings up some red flags. Like, why are you reacting that way? So
Get to like this video if you're interested in the subject, and don't forget to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button for us. And we have had a wonderful episode 5. We've enjoyed your company, and we hope to see you next week.
all right, guys, thank you for being here. This was a really good episode. I think we talked about a lot of things that we talk about regularly, but we have to keep, pushing it out there so that the awareness is brought to the people that need it, because I think there's a lot of people affected by these things that don't even know it. So hopefully this will get in front of the right people. Make sure you engage so that it does get pushed out, like, comment, share, all that kind of stuff. And we'll be here next week. Probably going to push it to Thursday though, because it's Christmas. So you guys have a happy holiday, and
Have a great holiday,
we'll
everyone.
see you after that.